You know, the Rosetta Stone, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that amazing slab that, well, cracked the code for ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the most famous museum pieces in the world.
Exactly. But most people, they know that story, the decoding part, but what was actually written on it.
Right. Because it's not just like a dictionary page or something.
Not at all. It actually tells this really dramatic story. One about a violent rebellion, a big power struggle in ancient Egypt.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to unpack this uh, largely forgotten, but really incredibly violent civil war.
A fight between native Egyptians and the rulers at the time, the Greek Macedonian dynasty.
That's the one, the dynasty that took over after Alexander the Great. This was a major clash.
And what's so fascinating is how we're putting this story together now. It's not just reading old texts.
No, it's much more tangible. We're looking at archaeology like actual findings from digs at places like Tel Taimai. That's ancient Tamui.
So dirt, burned buildings, stuff found in the ground,
Yeah.
and connecting that to historical decrees.
Yes, specifically the famous decree on the Rosetta Stone itself, the Memphis Decree. And there's another one too, less known, the Aristonicus Stone.
Okay, so our mission here, for you listening, is to kind of weave these threads together.
Exactly. We want to show you how these different kinds of evidence, archaeology, and texts reveal this gripping story. Explore the rebellion itself.
And really highlight how archaeology makes history feel, well, real, visceral.
Yeah, and maybe reveal how this conflict had some surprisingly big ripple effects across the ancient world, even potentially shaping Western history down the line.
Okay, let's dig in then. The Rosetta Stone itself. We know it was the key. Champollion used it in the 1820s because it had the same text 3 ways.
Right. Hieroglyphs for the priests, Demotic script that was the everyday Egyptian script in ancient Greek. For the rulers, that was the code-breaking part.
But the content, that's where our story really kicks off. It's the Memphis Decree from 196 BC.
Yep, a long time ago.
And this decree, it wasn't just like announcing new tax laws or something boring. What was its real point?
Oh, much more political. Definitely. It was basically a statement by the priests of the god Pa. They were very much on the side of the ruling dynasty.
Okay.
And they were declaring the young pharaoh, Ptolemy V. Epiphanes, as divine, a god.
Wow. He was just a kid then, wasn't
He's
he?
just a boy, maybe 5 or 6 when he first came to the throne, a bit older by 196 BC, but still young. And they're already calling him a god and listing his successes.
His successes, right. And one specific success they mention is pretty important for our story.
Absolutely crucial.
Mm.
The decree talks specifically about his military campaign against Egyptian rebels,
Rebels, okay?
and it even mentions him successfully besieging a rebel town, one located pretty close to Smui, that archaeological site we mentioned.
So hang on. This famous stone, written in 3 languages so everyone got the message. It's basically propaganda, celebrating the ruler's victory over his own people who were fighting back.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, it immediately tells you there was serious internal conflict going on.
Which brings us to the background, the context of the time. Ptolemy takes power in 204 BC. You said he was just a kid.
Yeah, his father, Ptolemy IV, had been murdered, so he inherits the throne as a child.
And the kingdom he
Wow.
inherited sounds like, well, a mess.
A complete mess is right. The economy was already tanking because of expensive foreign wars his father had fought.
But the bigger problem was internal.
Absolutely. The immediate crisis was this huge and increasingly violent uprising among the native Egyptian population. It had been brewing for some time.
What was driving it? Why were the native Egyptians revolting so fiercely?
Fundamentally, it was deep resentment. They felt like second-class citizens in their own country. The Greek Macedonian rulers, the Greek colonists who'd settled there, they were the ones getting rich, getting the opportunities. The native Egyptians felt pushed aside, exploited. They'd had enough.
And for ages, our picture of this uprising was kind of fuzzy, wasn't it? Mostly just bits from Greek writers who obviously had a bias, maybe some graffiti.
Exactly. It felt distant. And that's why the archaeology at Hasmo, the work by Robert Lippmann and Jay Silverstein, has been such a game changer.
Right, digging in the Nile Delta. What did they actually find there? What were the first signs?
The first big thing was just widespread destruction.
Yeah.
Layers in the ruined city showing a massive violent event.
And they could date it.
Yeah, pretty accurately to that period, 204 to 186 BC, the time of the rebellion. We're talking buildings clearly burned down, pottery jars and bowls still sitting where they were left when it all happened.
So not gradual decline, a sudden catastrophe. And what happened next? Did they just abandon it?
Now, that's interesting, too. The destruction layer was then deliberately leveled. They cleared the rubble and rebuilt the city right on top.
Okay.
And as they kept digging over the years, the evidence got, well, even more graphic.
More graphic. How so? What pointed specifically to violence?
Well, they found weapons, obviously.
Yeah.
But the really chilling part was finding unburied bodies within the destruction layer.
Unburied bodies inside the city.
Yeah. It means the violence wasn't just a battle outside. It came right into the streets, into people's homes.
That paints a really grim picture. Are there specific examples you remember from the reports?
Yeah, there was one skeleton they found. It showed signs of old, healed wounds, suggesting maybe a soldier, someone used to fighting.
Okay.
But crucially, he also had fresh, unhealed wounds, meaning he died violently right there during that event.
Wow.
And another find, just incredibly sad. A young man found inside a kiln, pottery oven.
In an oven? Was he hiding?
Possibly hiding, yeah. Or maybe wounded, crawled in there and died. It just makes the whole idea of a rebellion feel very real, very tragic.
Definitely. Now, dating stuff like this in archaeology, it can be tricky, right? Carbon dating gives you a range, but pinning it to a specific year or event.
That's the challenge. Radiocarbon might give you a century or maybe a few decades. But connecting it to this specific revolt, this Pharaoh's campaign, that needs more precision.
But they found something at the Mu in one room that helped narrow it down.
They did. Coins. A hoard of coins scattered on the floor of one of these destroyed rooms.
Okay, coins. What did they tell them?
These coins dated to the reign of Ptolemy IV. Remember, he's the father, the one murdered before Ptolemy V took over, before the rebellion really hit its peak.
Right. So coins from before the destruction were being used right up until it happened.
Exactly. That sets the earliest possible time. But then came the clincher.
What was that?
They also found coins in the layer of earth used to level the destruction debris to prepare for rebuilding. And those coins dated to the reign of Ptolemy VI.
Who came after Ptolemy V and the rebellion?
Correct. So the destruction had to happen somewhere between the time of those Ptolemy IV coins and the Ptolemy VI coins, during Ptolemy V's reign.
Okay, getting closer. Anything else to fine-tune it?
Yes, same room. They found this whole dinner setting. Ceramic bowls, plates, specifically Athenian-style pottery.
And that style can be dated pretty precisely.
Very precisely. Archaeologists know this stuff well. That particular style belongs squarely in the first quarter of the 2nd century BC.
First quarter of the 2nd century BC, which is smack dab in the middle of Ptolemy V's reign.
Exactly. 196 BC, the year the Rosetta Stone decree was made, fits perfectly in that window.
So let's put it together. What does all this archaeological evidence, the destruction, the bodies, the precise dating from coins and pottery, what does it tell us?
It tells us pretty conclusively that a major violent catastrophe occurred in Smyrna, exactly during the period when historical records, like the Rosetta Stone, say this massive Egyptian rebellion was happening, and Ptolemy V was actively fighting rebels in that very region.
This is where it clicks, right? Archaeology meets the written word.
Yes, it's powerful. The physical evidence lines up directly with those historical accounts.
So when the Rosetta Stone mentions Ptolemy V besieging a rebel town near Thmui, well, the archaeologists literally found the smoking ruins, so to speak, of a town at Thmui destroyed right then.
The connection seems undeniable, and there's more. That other decree we mentioned, the Aristarchus Stone,
Right.
it talks about a Greek general, Aristarchus, mopping up the last rebel fighters at a place called Tel El Balaman,
And where's that?
just north of Thmuis. So it reinforces the idea that this whole central Nile Delta area was a major center of the rebellion.
Okay, so Thmuis wasn't alone. These cities were really involved.
Deeply involved. And the archaeology, those unburied bodies, the burned homes, it shows the terrible price the people living there paid for that involvement.
It lasted nearly 20 years, you said. That's a long, brutal conflict. How did it finally end?
Well, ultimately, the Ptolemaic dynasty had a professional, well-equipped Hellenistic army. Think Alexander the Great's successors. The Egyptian rebels, however motivated, couldn't hold out forever against that kind of military power.
So the dynasty won. They crushed the rebellion.
They did, but the end for the rebel leadership was particularly nasty.
What happened?
According to the historical sources, the last main leaders were lured to the city of Sais, also in the Delta, supposedly for peace negotiations, under promise of safe conduct. And when they got there, they were just murdered, betrayed, and killed.
Grim. A brutal end to a brutal war. What about other consequences beyond the immediate deaths?
Well, there were definitely economic and political punishments for the cities that had rebelled. Closing harbors, like you mentioned, would have been a major blow to trade. The dynasty needed to make sure everyone knew who's back in charge.
It makes you wonder, though, the what if. What if the Egyptian rebels had won?
Oh, that's a massive counterfactual. History could look very different. Egypt's path certainly would have diverged. No more Ptolemies after that point.
And maybe cultural changes, too. You mentioned the gods earlier.
Right. Think about gods like Isis and Horus.
Mm-hmm.
Later, when Christianity spread, their stories and imagery kind of blended or were seen as foreshadowing Mary and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
If a native Egyptian dynasty, supported by the traditional priesthoods, had been in power, maybe that syncretism, that blending, wouldn't have happened in the same way. Maybe traditional Egyptian religion remains stronger for longer. It's impossible to know, but interesting.
Very interesting. But sticking with what did happen, because the Ptolemies won, the consequences were still huge, right? Just in a different direction.
Absolutely enormous. Keeping the Ptolemaic dynasty afloat meant they remained a major force in the Eastern Mediterranean for centuries more.
How so?
Well, for one thing, they actually played a role in supporting the Maccabean Revolt, the Jewish uprising, against another Greek kingdom, the Seleucids. That support helped lead to a period of renewed Jewish independence.
That's a significant connection. And then, of course, there's the most famous Ptolemy of all.
Cleopatra.
Exactly.
Because the dynasty survived this rebellion, it lasted long enough for Cleopatra VII to rule.
And her involvement with Rome, Caesar, Mark Antony.
It was pivotal. Her life and political maneuvering were completely entangled with the final years of the Roman Republic and its transformation into the Roman Empire under Augustus.
Wow. So, crushing this Egyptian revolt indirectly helped shape the future of Rome.
In a way, yes. The chain of events leads there. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Okay, let's circle back to Thmuis itself. The city was destroyed, leveled, then rebuilt.
Yes, rebuilt.
But it wasn't the same city, was it? Or for the same people?
That's a crucial point. No. The evidence suggests it was rebuilt largely as a city for Greek colonists, people loyal to the dynasty.
A population replacement, almost.
Effectively, yes. And its status changed dramatically, too.
How?
It seems to have quickly become the new regional capital, the main administrative center for that part of the delta.
Why the change?
Well, think about it. The old centers of power often revolved around Egyptian temples, and their priests were likely involved in the rebellion.
Ah, so take power away from them.
Exactly. By building this new Greek-dominated administrative hub, the Ptolemies could centralize control, keep a closer eye on things, and reward their supporters. It was a very deliberate strategy to prevent future trouble.
So the very stones and layout of the rebuilt city tell a story of political control, of preventing future dissent?
It's written right there in the Archaeology. The shift from a smaller town, its violent destruction, and its rebirth as a larger Greek-led regional capital. It mirrors the dynasty's actions to crush the revolt and consolidate power.
So wrapping this up, we started with the Rosetta Stone, famous for decoding hieroglyphs.
Right, just the language key.
But when you actually read what's on it, and you combine that with the archaeology from places like Thmui, the burn layers, the coins, those tragic bodies,
you get this incredibly vivid picture of a brutal, long, and really consequential civil war.
a war that didn't just stay within Egypt's borders, did it? It had these unexpected ripple effects, influencing Jewish history, setting the stage for Cleopatra, and even touching the rise of Rome.
It really did. It forces you to think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How much history lies hidden, not just in texts written by the winners, but buried in the ground?
Yeah, those physical traces, the burned buildings, the lost coins, the human remains, they offer a different kind of truth, maybe?
A raw truth, definitely. They reveal the human cost, the real impact of these ancient power struggles in a way that official decrees sometimes gloss over. They show how conflicts we barely knew about could have these surprising, long-lasting consequences.
Something to definitely keep in mind next time you see an artifact in a museum case or hear about archaeologists digging somewhere. There's often a much deeper and sometimes darker story waiting to be uncovered.